Hi guys, it's Fight Sai here with yet another video, and today we're talking about one of the most anticipated bouts this year. Jermell Charlo and Canelo Alvarez for undisputed gold at 168. Let's break it down. Now, how we got here. Now, as you all know, and it's actually surprising, this is the first time I'm mentioning Canelo formally on my channel. But Canelo Alvarez is basically modern day the biggest star in boxing. He's like a latter day Julio Cesar Chavez. I would say arguably better than Julio Cesar Chavez, probably more like an Oscar De La Hoya in terms of accolades, skills, and resume and things of that nature. From 2020 to 2022, he was pound for pound number one. The guy was on top of the world. I mean, from the Triple G series, even before that, maybe even as far back as 2016 to 2022, I would consider prime Canelo, man. The guy was on top of the fucking world. But things happen, and we're not a nonpartisan crowd here. I don't hold the same hate I used to have for Canelo now. I actually have a newfound appreciation for him making this breakdown. However, he got destroyed by Bivol. I'm not really worried what anyone says, broken hand, sprained arm, what have you. I don't care what anyone says. He got destroyed pretty damn easy by Bivol. Which leads us into our first point. Canelo has had an extremely hard time of securing an opponent lately. So, first down the list, he wanted his lick back against Bivol. He's not getting it. Bivol, probably wouldn't be the A side if they were to fight like right now, but Bivol's holding a bit more of the cards now than he did before. He just beat you, man, and now he just got overnight fame. He probably should have gotten more recognition earlier, but regardless, he got basically overnight fame and made Canelo Alvarez extremely aware of his limitations in the ring. Anything above 168 really is probably a bit too big for him, and he's probably even a bit small for 168, but anything bigger is too big for him. So he wanted his lick back against Bivol. He's not getting it. Bivol wants the fight at 168. He wants Canelo's 4 belts, understandably so. Canelo wants his belt at 175. They can't agree on the weight class, so Bivol's out. Next one on the list was Badu Jack. Badu Jack is a cruiserweight. He's like 200 pounds is his weight class. Canelo's 168. You could see how that could be a problem. Canelo wanted him to fight at a weight class of 180 with a rehydration clause. Terrible contract, man. Badu Jack turned it down. You could offer him $100 million. He's not taking a contract like that, so that's 2 opponents down. The third one, and we're going to get into this in a second, was Jermell Charlo, the brother of the guy who Canelo is going to be fighting, was going to fight Canelo, but realized he was not physically ready because of the crazy hiatus he's had from the ring. I think he broke his right hand or something. Which leads us into our current opponent, like 3 or 4 opponents later, Jermell, the Iron Man Charlo. Canelo signed a PBC. This is a part of his 3-fight deal with PBC. The first is Jermell Charlo. From what I'm hearing, the second one is Jermell Charlo. And then finally, the last one will be, I guess, an opponent of his choice. We're not sure if it's the winner of Benavidez Andrade or David Morrell, what have you. But, it's going to be one of those 3 guys. He's probably going to choose David Morrell because he's very good amateur, but relatively inexperienced. But yeah, that's probably his, 3-fight, contract with PBC in a nutshell. Now, time for the fight plans for both guys. We'll start with Charlo. His keys to success are staying behind his shotgun jab. He has a very good jab, and using his feet. I wouldn't say, knowing what I know about Canelo now, I would not say that his footwork is way better than Canelo's, but it's definitely at least, moderately better than Canelo's, and he's definitely more nimble on his feet. Canelo's keys to success are, I'll go over this later, circling to his left, landing that left hook to the body, and cutting off the ring and eventually getting Charlo on the ropes or in the corners and stopping him, basically, are both guys' keys to success or keys to victory, what have you. Now, time for the fight breakdown, people. We'll start off with Canelo since there's a lot more to go over with him. There's a lot more to unpack. There's a lot more nuances to his style as well as dimensions to his style, what have you. Now, probably the biggest, specific thing Charlo could do, which he's not going to do because unlike Dimitri Bivol, he doesn't have as nuanced a lead hand. Bivol, is a topic for another day. But the biggest issue Canelo has is he has an issue with coming back foot forward too much. He habitually does it. He does it all the time. He leans too much weight on the front foot trying to gather his feet. His guard can get manipulated and he can get knocked off balance, which Bivol did the entire fight against Canelo, and Canelo never adjusted. Basically, it's not an easy thing to pick out, and it's probably not what Charlo's going to do, but just, thought I'd mention it. Speaking of, since Charlo does have a great jab, I think it's also important to bring up how Canelo deals with the lead hand against guys with a great lead hand, maybe not as nuanced as a Bivol, but definitely very good jabs and lead hands. I'll use Triple G as an example, probably one of the best modern jabs in boxing. He will disengage, Canelo says, he will disengage by stepping back. He'll use a high guard. He'll take flurries. He'll use head movement to move his head off center line. He'll use pulls, which is like pulling your head straight back, which is usually a problem, but if you know what you're doing and you don't keep your chin all out there, you're fine. He'll use half steps back. He'll use good step back game, parries, and he'll step wide to avoid his ops jab. One spot, however, Charlo's definitely not going to want to be in, that I see him going to frequently in the tape that I reviewed from him. Canelo absolutely has a better inside game than Charlo. Physical controls, physicality, combination punching, what have you. Charlo's not going to be able to do a whole lot on the inside, and he might be susceptible to being knocked out. Canelo does move back foot first laterally. Canelo does have very good weight transfer. He leans on his back foot to load up, his backhand to counter punch, as well as, be more mobile with his feet due to, better weight transfer. And, not always being, front foot heavy. He's not the most nimble on his feet, but there's certain nuances to what Canelo does with his footwork that, can't really be ignored. Now, a frequent sequence that Canelo likes to do, or semi-frequent, is the step feint, false step into a left hook. Breaks rhythm very well and keeps his opponent guessing. Doesn't, leaves a lot to the imagination, doesn't make shit as obvious. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning, Canelo moves back foot first. He also moves back foot first laterally as opposed to a proper front foot for step around. Charlo might be able to exploit this because out of the two, he definitely has the better feet. And if he properly, and I'm going to get into this in the Charlo part, if he properly uses his abilities and properly uses his lateral movement, he could definitely exploit this with Canelo because he has the faster feet. He is an American fighter, so he's going to be pivoting. He could get Canelo to continuously break his base without even doing what Bivol did, and really get him to break his base and really take him off his game. Canelo can also step back to disengage into a level change to create space for himself to gain real estate in the ring. Canelo uses pre-slips to gauge his opponent's reaction. Canelo habitually circles left, because he pushes off the back foot, which lines him up with the backhand of an orthodox fighter, but it isn't all bad because it lines up his left hook to the body perfectly. If you know anything about Mexican fighters, you know they love that left body hook, so fucking Canelo circling left into his op's power hand is not bad. He knows exactly what he's doing, and he doesn't always do it. He knows when to switch it up when circling to either side of his opponent. Very good offensive lateral movement from Canelo against ops to cut off ring. Nello false steps to land overhand right, and swivel jab is another common sequence he does. He leans on his front foot in the high guard to entice jabs. Canelo will sometimes launch off the back foot to land offense, the 1-2 specifically. Canelo circles right to line up jab / not be predictable. Canelo level changes. The op doesn't react. He's supposed to mirror his action. He lands flush left hook on the face of op, and this actually is pertinent because what I'm going to explain later, Jermell Charlo has an absolute inability to properly change levels. Not just with the jab, with other, body shots. I'm sure he doesn't know how to throw a proper body hook either. Regardless, though, Canelo continuously rocks back foot, front foot to transfer to either way, depending on which punch he wants to throw, as well as the position he's in. Canelo pounding the arms of an op at points to wear down his punch output, almost like Marciano back in the day. Nello will land overhand rights frequently. However, the main mistake I see him make is he overcommits and breaks his base doing a forward cross step in a southpaw. Jermell might be able to exploit, but will need to improve and maintain distance control. Stiff arm from Canelo to move op out of range. He has very good physical controls. And final point I want to make on Canelo is that even under immense pressure and combination punching from op, Canelo's still able to keep his composure with his head moving for the most part and slip a lot of shots. Now, time for Charlo. Now, Charlo's part's going to be a lot shorter than Canelo's part because, like I said, there's a lot less to unpack. His game is a fair degree less nuanced, and he's got much bigger holes in his game. So Charlo breaks his base and struggles to get it back. As another YouTuber pointed it out, I'll probably include him in the description or shout him out. He gets happy feet. He's got decent, frame game, decent physical controls. This is probably going to be one of the biggest problems with Charlo in his fight against Canelo. Charlo has a complete lack of ability to properly change levels when throwing the right cross to the body. He leaves his chin exposed or base broken, just completely exposed. Like, he'll be standing straight up and land a jab or attempt to land a jab to the solar plexus of his op, and leave his chin completely exposed. What I mean by break base, he'll throw the right cross and his right knee will completely bend down. He often leaves himself exposed, especially if an opponent is hurt or if he thinks an opponent is hurt. His punch form will completely go out of the window. He'll swing wildly. He has very good head movement. He puts himself in disadvantageous positions, which is probably going to be the second biggest problem, arguably even the biggest problem. He has better footwork than Canelo, but only if he uses it properly, being more nimble on his feet, what have you. He puts himself in disadvantageous positions. He circles the wrong way and puts himself onto the ropes, or makes it easier for the guy to cut off the ring on him. He does have a good jab, however, which could give Canelo problems, but again, only if he maintains distance properly. He doesn't use his lateral movement right. He moves into a corner, as seen in his fight with Tony Harrison. Completely unnecessary. He frequently uses wild punch form, not even just when he thinks he has the other guy hurt. His punch form isn't the best, and he'll occasionally throw a swivel jab or two. Final thoughts. Charlo definitely has a tall task ahead of him. To be truly great, you need to challenge yourself. Jumping up 2 weight classes and fighting anyone is no small feat, but especially a generational talent and possible all-time great like Canelo Alvarez. Charlo will have to dig deep if he wants to win. That being said, however, if you are to bet, I'm not a betting man, but I'm sure some of my subs do, especially one in particular. If you were to bet, I'd either bet Canelo straight up by decision, or if you really want to actually make money, I would bet Canelo by knockout 7 through 12. This is Fight Size signing out.